Hi everyone, and welcome to Spiritual Talk. We've got not one guest, not two, but three guests, and it's unbelievable. I'm so happy that I've got three international mediums here this evening. So without further ado, I'm now going to introduce our guests. Tonight we have Ellyn Shander, evidential medium. Ellyn traveled the world and studied various traditions and belief systems. She is currently residing in the US, and her day job is a medical doctor. But it was through her own personal loss that she discovered mediumship. Since then, she has gone on to study with some of the world's finest mediums. Welcome, Ellyn. And welcome to Spiritual Talk, I should say, Ellyn. And our next guest is Samantha Robinson. Now, evidential medium. Hi, Sam. Evidential medium Samantha, like Ellyn, is also based in the US. As a child, Sam had many unexplained experiences. She grew up knowing there was more to life than what we naturally perceive. These experiences led her towards developing and exploring her natural ability for mediumship. Samantha has also trained, like Ellyn, with some of the world's finest mediums. Welcome, Samantha, to Spiritual Talk. Our next guest is international evidential medium Leona McNama. Leona originates from Ireland, but she is now based in Germany, living with her husband and daughter. She is a former TV editor in New York. She also has a passion to travel. Leona has spent some time backpacking to some far-flung destinations around the globe. After a series of pivotal events in her life, it led Leona to mediumship. Welcome, Leona. It's an absolute pleasure to have all three of you ladies here this evening. I'm going to start with Ellyn. Hi, Ellyn. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey into mediumship?
So I don't know where to start, but I'll try and be concise, because I've been sitting here thinking, because, you know, when you're a medium, it's really a culmination of all your life activities and interactions. But I started out looking for spirits since I'm a child. I was a professional ballet dancer, and then I worked for the airlines, and then eventually I went to college and then medical school. But while I was doing all of those things, you know, I found myself looking for something that was outside of me. I'd find myself wandering into churches or synagogues as a young person, and people would just look at me. And then it came about when I was 20, I decided that I was going to make a world tour and look for God. Didn't understand that God is, of course, within your own heart, but I went all over. I went to Yogananda's retreat in California. I went to India. I went to different places and went to Jerusalem. And what I found is that I began to look inside of myself for spirit and healing. And so when I became a doctor, it became more natural to be looking at healing and connecting with people. I've also worked internationally at disaster relief areas, tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanoes after the event. So I've really, even before mediumship, connected with people and found that I became more alive when I was in service to people and really feeling the heart and the soul of people that I helped. However, about 6 years ago, my husband passed, the absolute love of my life. And I really was heartbroken because although I studied many different traditions about life after life, when it hits you home and when you have a real loss in your heart, I think what saved me is about maybe a few days after he passed, somebody said, "Why don't you go to a medium?" I said, "A medium? Okay." So I went, and that started my journey of a relationship with him that has gone on, deeper and deeper. And I think what really saved my life and saved my sanity was that there is life after life. You can have a relationship with someone even though their physical body's not here. And it's been extraordinary. Do I wish that he was still here in body? Of course. But mediumship has given me a life, another life in my heart and my soul. And I'm just really committed to helping other people have their reunions because it's been extraordinary for me. So then I went to the Arthur Findlay College, and since then it's a short history to today, where the highlight of my life is doing mediumship. although I'm still a doctor, which I love, the highlight of my life is helping people connect with the other side. But even more than that, it's giving somebody without a body an opportunity to reach out through time and space and just touch the person that they love who's here. So I hope I didn't speak too much, but that's my passion.
No. That's pretty amazing. And thank you for sharing that. And we're sorry for the loss of your husband. But thank you for sharing your personal story. People are going to be asking, why do I have three lovely mediums on all together at the same time? But we'll come to that, guys. So bear with us. Hi, Samantha. Welcome to Spiritual Talk. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey into mediumship as well?
Okay, so I feel like ever since I was a little child, I would have premonition dreams. I would see shadow people in my room at night. I would hear voices or people talking to me every now and then. And I feel like that might have came about because I was an only child. My dad was a single father, working all the time. So I spent a lot of time in my room, in my backyard, and just playing by myself. So I felt like that might have connected me with spirit somehow. I'm not sure, but I just was drawn to anything paranormal, anything spiritual. Back in the day, I would go to the bookstores and sit in the occult New Age section all the time and flip through the books. And then I once I turned 16, I would just go right to this tea room in my town or a couple towns over and get my cards read. I just found that fascinating. And then I would go to mediums just for fun with my friends. And I was always drawn to trying to figure out, how is this happening? I just loved it. So then I moved to Connecticut, and there was a spiritual church probably about 1.5 miles down the road. And every day I jogged by it, and there was a sign out there how they would do classes and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, I should do that. It was about 7 years later. I was like, I should probably do it. My mom had just passed away, and it wasn't because I wanted to connect with my mom. It was like, life is too short. Stop putting off what you want to do till tomorrow. So I'm like, all right, January 1st, I'm going in there and I'm taking class. And I loved it. I mean, I don't think I spoke the whole first year I was there because I just was taking all in and I was a little scared. But I learned how to meditate or open up. I learned how to just feel spirit. I just learned a lot. And I was like feeding off of it. It just was so fun. So every week I would do that. And then I had all these interesting experiences. I think once you open up, you synchronicities happen and then, people pop in dreams or, spirit, which I have a story I could tell later. And I just got hooked. And then I went to Arthur Finley, and that's where I met all you guys, I think. And then it's my love. I love feeling spirit. I love being able to pass on messages. And that's how it all began.
That's amazing. Amazing story. Yours is more, it sounds quite a natural ability. Whereas Ellyn, you had a kind of quite a traumatic into mediumship, although there was this passion in your heart and connection to a divine source or creator. But let's get Leona in on this as well. Leona, hi Leona. What brought you into mediumship? And welcome to Spiritual Talk. And it's lovely to see you. And I've always said, I'm going to get you on here one day, and here we are. I've twisted your arm. On here. Yeah. Welcome to Spiritual Talk. How did you get into mediumship?
Okay, well, for me, I was always very spiritually, openly aware, sort of like Sam, going back to when I was a child, and always interested in mediumship. Like I read my very first mediumship book. It was Doris Stokes' book when I was 11, one that my mother had lying around the house somewhere. And was just always fascinated. I remember reading like James Van Praagh books and and I'm just looking there at Paul's has a copy of one of Doris Stokes' books.
Yeah.
But I was always interested and had strange experiences where, I was aware of spirit around me. I felt somebody sit down on the bed one time, saw orbs, all these kind of things, But never thought that I was an actual medium myself, but it was only after several different events happened in my life. I was seriously ill. I almost died at one point. I was bedbound in a wheelchair and stuff. And then there was the loss of 2 people, and all of this happened in the space of like 10 months. And it was kind of like divinely orchestrated that I found my way onto a Facebook page to do with mediumship, because I thought, oh, I'm going to try and see if somebody can connect with one of these 2 people who were belonging to me who had passed, you know. And they had exercises up for people to try and see if they could connect. And next thing you know, I'm like getting the name of this sitter's mother and her date of birth and these screws in her ankle from an operation she had had, and all this kind of information, very specific, that I couldn't have possibly known. And I remember, to be quite honest with you, it freaked me out, because even though I had no problem with mediumship and other people being medium, I kind of thought, oh my God, you know, what are people going to think of me now? Am I somehow weird or something, you know, that I'm able to do this now? So it was something I had to kind of get used to myself, you know. And like, I don't think it was any accident that I didn't start to open up and actively develop my mediumship until after the other events had happened in my life, because in hindsight, the way I see it now was it was all in perfect timing. I needed to go through those specific experiences to gain an understanding and compassion for fellow human beings, and you know, for when I'm working with spirit myself, you know, because it is a huge responsibility. So for me, it was like my training ground, going through all those experiences. So I ended up, you know, continuing on developing my mediumship, as you said in the intro, you know, myself solely with the spirit world, read a ton of books, watched as many videos as I could, you know, find on mediums doing their thing, you know. And then it got to a point, you know, where I was like, I want to go and start developing this with, like, you know, real high quality teachers and stuff. So I made my way over to the famous Arthur Findlay College, and that's where I met these lovely ladies, and yourself, Paul, as well. I met you back in 2019 at AFC. So yeah, I go there about every 6 months. It's just like being with your soul family, your soul tribe, and I love it. And you know, it's just nourishment for the soul, and I don't think anybody ever gets to the end of the road when it comes to their development. So it's an ongoing thing. I think anybody who thinks they've come to the end of that, you know, no, definitely not. No one ever does.
Mediumship is an ever ongoing journey for us all. And I think it was 2019, which will soon be known as BC, before COVID. But yeah, it was 2019. Yeah. So, guys, I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm kind of going to go round and just touch on a few things. And I know I've got 3 of you, and I could literally sit here and spend an hour on each of you, your journey, your stories. But guys, for those of you at home that are wondering why we've got 3 lovely mediums here, you guys are all coming together very, very soon. And I'm so excited. I've managed to get all 3 of you together in one place. And that's at the Puppet Theatre in Norwich on the 22nd of June. It's Saturday evening. So, guys, if you're out there, you're anywhere near Norwich, come and see us. It'll be great. We're really looking forward to it. And tickets are available. They will be available. We'll put the link in afterwards, guys, so don't worry. So that's why we've got all 3 of you in together, because I don't think people realise how good you are. No pressure, guys, because you'll be performing on the day, not me. And I'll be actually having a rest and putting my feet up. I'm just going to be the compere, or the guy who runs around with the microphone. That's going to be me. But can we talk mediumship? Let's talk get into mediumship, shall we? So, Ellyn, what would you consider to be your strongest attribute when it comes to working with mediumship?
So first I want to say, Paul, thank you, because to get the 3 of us together is a miracle, because we all do different things. And to organize us to be at the Puppet Theatre together is really an honor, because I know all 3 of us, and it's a privilege and an honor to serve the spirit world. So if you're asking me what my strength is, I think that I feel I'm just dedicated to somebody to come close and want a reunion with their person in the audience. You know, I often say to my son, you better listen when I'm dead because I'll be talking. And he always says, Mom, you're never going to shut up. So I said, I know. And but you know, it's funny when we say it that way, but I know when I'm going to be on the other side, I'll want to reach out across and tell the people that I left behind that I love them. And that, I think, is my biggest strength, that I'm just so dedicated to come close, tell me who you are, tell me things about you that they'll know it's you, and just reach out to get the right recipient. So for me, it's sacred. It's sacred to be able to do that. I guess I'm always working on getting out of the way and having that person come close. What's exciting for me, I love it when somebody comes. You know, I was at a church not long ago, and this great truck driver came in. I could feel him. He was a dad. He was a truck driver, and boy, he just took over. He was fabulous. He told me about things in his life and stopping. To have this man come alive once more and have his daughter say, that's my dad. That's what I live for. And just bringing them alive again. So I love doing this. And I guess that's my passion.
Yeah. And that's the holy grail of mediumship, isn't it? Being able to bring the presence of spirit through. So, and sometimes it's not just the evidence, it's the actual, you know, you can give the best evidence in the world. But if you don't have that essence, that person goes home and goes, oh, do you know what, I felt that person with me. That to me is the holy grail of mediumship. Same question to you, Samantha, and I don't mind. I mean, you know, what is one of your strengths with mediumship?
I see a lot. I really trust my images and what I'm shown. I feel like that's definitely one of my strengths. I also I feel like I'm hearing a lot more too, but my strength is definitely, I'm a very visual person. Like, I like photography, and I've always been, I did editing too, like Leona back in the day, but anything visual is, I feel like, a strength of mine. So I feel like I can trust that, and that's usually how I start my contact with visions.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. How about you, Leona?
For me, Paul, I kind of feel my strength is really allowing the spirit communicator to take the lead in the communication, you know, not for me to take control, but for them to give me exactly what it is they want to bring up and what's important for them to get across. And also, you know, I'm very big on ethics in mediumship, you know, and having compassion for the sitter, you know, and the spirit communicator, and really trying to honor what it is they want to bring forward. And I like to really try and bring alive the relationship they had, you know, and that they continue to have. And if there's any kind of apology or anything like that, that I do my best to try and deliver that on the communicator's behalf, you know, because mediumship is life-changing, really, you know, and it's very important to me that I stay out of the readings, you know, without any kind of judgment or putting my spin on anything myself, but to stay as pure of a channel as I can in that connection in mediumship, you know, so to really try and bring their essence alive and their the relationship they had with the sitter, you know.
So my next question is open to all three of you guys, but Leona, I'm going to come back to you about that. How do you surrender to spirit? And there'll be a lot of guys that are interested in mediumship, that are developing themselves, that you know, we all hit those plateaus where we get a bit stuck. You know, yeah. How do we surrender to allow them? I don't want to use the word control because it implies other things, but to allow them to take that. And for you, how does that work? Yeah.
It's really, I suppose, putting the focus completely on the communicator and the power of their presence there, and not putting the focus on myself and how I'm going to look and whether I'm going to do a good job in the eyes of whoever I'm giving the reading to. So it's about taking myself out of there and, you know, not worrying about, am I going to get it wrong or right or whatever, just surrendering to do it in the best possible way I can, you know, just in that way surrendering and just trying to not put myself under pressure, you know, because I think a big problem as well is too many people go by a checklist within their mediumship, and when they do that, they're leading and kind of controlling the reading in a way. If you take that checklist out of it, you're surrendering more to what it is, the story and the path that the communicator wants to bring you on, you know.
But that's more, and this is to the other two days, Samantha, that's more scary, right? Surrendering. You know, because we from a human concept, we can't help. There was always that little bit of fear that we're going to get it wrong. There's always that worry, that anxiety. So to have that complete surrender is scary, right?
Terrifying. But it's
Absolutely. You know, it's not always easy to allow that for them to come close and for them to lead. Because, and I know I when I start, I ask guys, you know, I'd love your name, and I kind of have this little checklist that I want from them, but I shouldn't be doing that. It should be, what do they have to say? And I found when I do that, I get some unusual messages, and it's almost like a story. How does that work for you, Samantha? Do you get that?
I do, and it's something I've been learning. You know, it's development, but I learned that if I just trust, like if I trust my image, and I know everyone works differently, but I know I trust my images. Like I did a reading where that man was wrestling a fake alligator, and I started with that because I trusted my image. And now that I trust my image, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to trust you to come close. I'm going to trust whatever you give me. And I feel like that's really helped me just, you know what, I'm just going to say what you give me. I'm going to feel what you let me feel. And I've noticed a big difference in my mediumship when I just surrender. And what I think is interesting too, because I know everyone here and myself, we're all perfectionists in a way. We're all like high achievers. We like to be the best in everything. But isn't it amazing how I think Spirit is teaching us a lesson too? Like we need to not surrender and not control everything that we like to control in order to do this well. And I think we all do really well in trying to be the best and surrendering and trusting. I don't know. It's just a wonderful process, right? I mean, it's amazing.
It is that surrendering, and I'm going to come to Ellyn next, but surrendering is quite scary. So last night, and there is a responsibility with the recipient when receiving the message or giving the message to the recipient. For example, I had a gentleman, and my mediumship has shifted where I hear more than I see. I used to see a lot. And this gentleman was telling me in my ear, I was at a Norfolk Spiritualist, and hi to everyone if they're watching, the Norfolk Spiritual Centre, and I was demonstrating, and there was a gentleman there, didn't know him, I connected with him, brought his parents through, but his dad was telling me about somebody, he said, that was tortured, and I'm like, whoa, and it really went on from there. Now, I got the evidence, but I then jokingly said, oh, this can't be right. This can't be tortured. Why would Spirit give me in this environment that this gentleman, there was a loved one that was tortured in conflict. He was captured and tortured. And I said jokingly, do you understand the torture that this gentleman's talking about? And I said, it's a bit like pulling teeth, because I played safe rather than surrendering to it. And he went, yeah, I've just had my tooth taken out today. And I thought, no, that's not right. It's still not right. And I said, okay, I'm going to be honest. It was torture. And he went, and I said, but I don't want to go too deep in it in a spiritual center, because I didn't feel that it had the right energy. But he came to me afterwards, and he was a specialist soldier that was captured, and that did happen to him, and he went into Spirit. But I didn't trust. And I'm ashamed that I didn't give that more. But then where do you draw the line? So, Ellyn, for you, how do you allow that, to let that control go and trust? Is it difficult? I mean, I think it's always going to be difficult. In every situation, there's always going to be a level of...
I'm laughing. I'm laughing because what I do every day is tell people what to do. As a medical doctor, I'm telling people, do this, don't eat salt, don't do that, you have to do this. So I laugh about it because my mediumship box is very different. You don't tell the spirit world what to do, and you don't give orders. You're a receiver. So it's been a transition for me to be not in charge, but to be in service by receiving. So what I do really is I recognize from the very beginning, a real person is going to join me. A real person who's had a real life here, not a spirit, not a communicator, but a real person is going to join me. And as you join me, I want to get to know you. Who are you? Tell me something that they're going to know about you. So I really try, I really do try to have an experience and get to meet this person, that they're real. Then once I feel that, I say, come on, we're going to do this together. You step forward with me. I'm not going first. You go first. And I have this experience. Now, it can happen in a split second, but if I stay close to, this is a real person, and this is their chance to tell their story. It's my business to listen, not to be in charge. That helps me surrender, if we call it that. Then once the process is starting, I love it when I get information. I'm much braver now than I used to be about just saying what I got, which is, just say whatever. So what? Maybe somebody will say no. I don't care. I just want to be as honest as I can with what I receive, because my loyalty and the surrender for me is being in loyalty to this person who has chosen this opportunity and chose me to reach their loved one. So that surrender happens when I stay in that place. And then when it goes great, it's the most amazing experience in the world. One of my teachers, Janet Nohavik, used to say, doing mediumship is like touching the hem of God, because you're right there with that person who's so excited. They've got a voice, they've got a mouth, they've got a way to be alive again. So now, we all get our minds in it for a moment or two, and then I've taken control and I've walked away from this beautiful person who's with me. So, you have ways to get back into it again.
It's difficult, though, especially for you, though, because your life is about helping people, but you have to be proactive. You have to be strong-minded. You have to deal with that. And then you've got that duality. So do you find within that mediumship, you can have those challenges within your mediumship, because there is a part, you can't help it. You are a strong-minded, intelligent lady that you can just bring everything together and you make things happen. And then to totally surrender. I do know, by the way, Norwich is in for a hell of a treat with you three guys. Honestly, it's going to be a fantastic night. Norwich is going to be in for a real treat with you three, but it must be. I mean, I just want to add one thing, Paul. I just want to add one thing, and that's that. If you said something about taking over, but that person has an opportunity to be here. The person who's communicating, and absolutely. That's really what saves the day. So, I just want to say that lately, what I've been doing is getting to know them like I would a patient. They just don't have a body. But if I can get to know somebody like I get to know, oh, Paul, you're so interesting. You're so smart. I've gotten to know you a little bit. You have a body. You have a body. Okay. They don't. But if I can just get to know them. So that's all I want to say. You didn't say good looking, but it's okay. It's okay. I can live that disappointment.
I didn't want to flatter you too much, but you're good looking.
Okay. So, okay. Well, like I said, we're going to be in for a great night at Norwich. Coming back to the other ladies as well, and to all of you again. Now, it's easy for us to sit here. We talk about the dynamics of mediumship, and we kind of make these constructs and ideas around how we work, and we talk about compassion and ethics and trust. The magic. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the magic. There is a magic, and I'm not talking about anything mumbo jumbo. There is this magical essence of when we connect to that spirit world, and when we have a discarnate energy, a soul that comes to us and touches us. There is, especially when people are starting to develop, they're like, wow, we're reaching through and feeling something that is not within this reality. There's more to this life. Now, I'm going to bring this back simply Do you have a specific way of how you attune to the spirit world? Now, for me personally, I'm not a fan of calling it the spirit world because it implies that you can buy 2 tickets and go on holiday to the spirit world, that it's a place somewhere, because I believe that the spirit world is all around us. And I believe it's a part of us. But how do you guys take your mind, your connection into that spirit world? So who would like to go first? Ellyn, would you like to go first?
Okay. I was just
Do you have a process, is what I'm trying to say? Do you have a process of connecting?
So first of all, I feel like you have to change your awareness and your reality from go, 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 do, do, do. For me, I play one piece of music. It's called The Prayer by Bocelli. I can play it 50 times until I'm finally settled down and in a place of spirit. That's my process. Maybe other people can get there quicker. But for me, I need to let go of everything else and say, okay, now let me be in the spirit world, which is there anyway. And then nature for me, before I do a dam, or I'm always looking at trees, because trees speak to me. They're alive, they're vibrant, they're always there. So I'm looking for reminders of the spirit world and the essence of how I swim. I can swim in that water now. And then I think Leona mentioned it, giving up. I've got to be good. It's got to be right. You know, all of that stuff, that's out the window. And then I think I'm just, for me, Paul, when I can get to the place that this is a miracle and I'm in service. When I've let go of everything, I'm in service, then I'm available. And to stay there and to be available and say, okay, who's going to be here? Let's go. That's my process. Music, nature, and the awareness of this is a miracle.
That's beautifully said. Thank you. Samantha, and same question to you. Do you have a technique in what you use to attune?
All right. Well, I mean, I'm a little all over the map, but not really. So what I do is I take about 30 minutes and I clear my mind. I use some music just to relax. And I try to picture myself bigger than my body. Like I try to expand my energy. I also think every time before reading, I think back to a dream I had when I was about 12. And quickly in that dream, I was actually a man sitting against a tree. And I started getting lightheaded, and I was actually dying, I think, in the dream. And I came up through my head. And I remember thinking, wow, am I dying? And then I looked down at myself, and I was a male. And I woke up, and that got me into this stuff too. But I realized that feeling that I'm actually not this body. I am something else.
That's
stuck with me. So I think about that dream before every reading, thinking like, this is just a communication tool, my body. So I think about that, and then I tell Spirit, like, please use my body as a communication tool to show your love. Like, I just keep thinking that. And then before the reading, I think about, because, you know, our thoughts create energy. I think about going to one of my favorite concerts and how excited I get. And, you know, like you hear your favorite song at a concert before they start playing. You get that rush of energy up your chest. At least I do, because I love the Dave Matthews Band. And I get so excited. So I think about that before reading, and then I'm like ready to go. So it's a little different, but I like the excitement, and I like to feel myself a little bit apart from my body.
So what I'm getting from you two ladies is that sense of raising your vibration and getting you to that point. Leona, same question to you. Do you have a practice or something you always use?
I'd agree with the two ladies here that they said about raising their, you know, vibe and all that kind of stuff, you know. For me, being the busy mother of a 10-year-old, I'm normally racing around, so I've kind of gotten used to shifting my awareness very quickly. There's no half hour sitting down listening to music. For me, it's just basically a few minutes. I just try and still myself, and it's very important for me to be familiar with my own energy, so spending a lot of time in nature and, you know, just chilling out with music going in the background just in my day-to-day life helps me to be very familiar with my own energy. So it's just basically a matter of quieting myself down and then being very much aware clairsentiently of the presence then of a communicator coming close. So that's kind of it for me. It's just like shifting my awareness. And as you said, Paul, you know, we're right here with the spirit world. It's not that we have to go anywhere else, you know, so it's just the moving of our own minds, knowing that they're there. And that's something as well I just always reinforce with myself, you know, they're here, they're right here. So, yeah.
Okay, guys, I'm now going to ask you a question about, because there is a lot of people out there that don't know whether they can be medium. They don't even know the difference, and no disrespect to those people, between psychic and mediumship. Could you give a little bit of an explanation of what that is and how that fits into what you do, if that makes sense? Who would like to go first? I don't mind. Yeah, Samantha, would you like to go first?
I'll go first.
All right.
If that's okay with my other two friends here. So I'm going to use Sam as an example because I'm looking right at you, Sam. So if I was going to read Sam psychically, I would be feeling, you know, what is she doing today? I'd be feeling like, feel like she's a mom. And I feel like all of these details about her life are coming to me, you know. So I'd say, Sam, you must have a dog, right? Because I'm looking at, and I'm getting all of this energy from Sam and her energy around her. I might pick up music about her. I might know it's the Dave Matthews Band. I'm just kidding. I know that. But I'd be getting my information from my soul and my ability to pick up things about her. Now, if I was, that's psychic. So if you're sitting with somebody, you can't really say, I've got your mom here and she says you've got a green shirt on. No, it's got to be that person's life and what's happening with them. Now, if I switch to an awareness of somebody for Sam who's in the other world, I'm actually listening differently. I'm not listening to what's around Sam, but I'm listening now to, hey, is there anybody here who wants to come close and speak to her from the other side? Now my awareness is really feeling somebody with me. Once that happens, the information I'm going to give out has to come from this person. One of the things that bothers me is when I see people stand up as mediums and they're reading the person psychically and they're saying, that's your mom talking, when the mom's not even there. So I think the three of us are very careful, because we've been trained that way at AFC, to be very careful that if we say we've got somebody with us from the other side, that information is coming from them and you can feel it. So then it's different. So I might say to Sam, well, would I be correct that your dad's in spirit? And I know this, she'd say yes. And then I would be really feeling that information about him. So I just gave her as an example, and I hope that's helpful to other people. Know where your information is coming from, because it feels different.
Yeah, Ellyn, that's so beautifully put. And I'm going to change the question slightly to the other two ladies. So, guys, I'm going to ask you, when you get into that situation, when you're connecting to spirit, but you're picking up something psychically, how are you aware of that? For instance, this guy's having an affair. Or what do you do with that information that's coming at you psychically? Is it appropriate to give that? I'm going to go straight to you, Leona, with that.
I think you have to tread very carefully with sensitive information, you know, and not necessarily about somebody having an affair or that, but, you know, for example, a lot of the time you may become aware of details surrounding somebody's passing. And, you know, sometimes I'll see mediums given like really gory details that there's just no need to be given at all. They can still kind of get across the evidence they need to, like that it was a sudden passing, or they're taking responsibility for crossing themselves over, for example, without getting into the gory nitty gritty. I think when mediums do that, it's out of ego. They just want to hear that they got all the details right. But I think, you know, and another point to make about that is some mediums will say, well, the communicator wouldn't have made me aware of that if they didn't want me to say it. But I don't believe that to be true. I think sometimes they'll make us aware of that so that we're aware of how fragile the sitter is. the recipient of the reading, you know, and to tread carefully with them, and that they've suffered greatly through the passing of this person, you know. So I think we have to use discernment, we have to have integrity, and, you know, stay true to what the communicator has given us. But as I said, it's not always to be just handed right up there, you know, on a platter to the person. You know, we have to tread carefully, you know, with sensitivity.
Yeah, and I guess, Ellyn, it's a bit like when you're looking at someone's medical records, you know, they're personal to them. There's certain things, because that soul is coming to you. It's a very personal thing. I mean, Samantha, have you had anything yourself that you've become aware of that was really quite personal, and you had that doubt, what do I do here? And how did you get over that challenge? Because it is quite a challenge.
I know. I'm trying to rack my brain right now.
I just put you right on the spot with that one, haven't I?
Yeah, I think I have tread lightly on some things. Like, I won't go into details if I sense like, oh, you know, I might feel like the person's depressed, or, you know, I feel like I tread lightly on that. But I'm trying to think of situation. I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now, but I know I try not to get into anything that's, I mean, I had one reading where I think the spirit was telling me their child was someone else's child, someone else's child was their child. And that was the first time I didn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
So I had to have a conversation with the woman after, saying, you know, listen, I'm not sure how to handle. I was honest. I was like, I don't know how to handle this situation. It's never come to me. But I feel like with every reading, I learn from, you know, how to handle a situation. But
everyone's ears have just pricked up, by the way, at home. What do you mean? Yeah, so that's an unusual experience.
I was doing a reading. Yes, I was doing a reading, and the guy was saying, that is my child. And I think it's always been a question in the family whose child it was.
Yeah.
And we were all kind of caught off guard. I was caught off guard. You know, I was like, I'm just telling you what I'm hearing. Yeah. It's a little different from being psychic, but that, like, situations like that, I learned you got to tread lightly.
Could that also have been a point of evidence, just the fact that it was talked about in the family? So it was evidence rather than it being real. So difficult, that one.
Well, it was, I don't know. I was like, I don't want to get involved, but you know what? It is. He was proving he was there, and he wanted to say that's his child. And I think that was the message, but it's really interesting what comes through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Psychically and medium.
Absolutely. And Ellyn, you want to come in on this, don't you?
Yeah, I wanted to say that, you know, mediumship is, as Sam said, it's a very delicate, Leona said that too, it's a delicate place to tread carefully. You know, it's a healing, and it's delicate. I know recently a young man came to me, he was my patient, not for mediumship, and he told me that his mother had just killed herself. And this was, I'd met him once, and in between appointment number 1 and number 2, his mom had suicided. And as I sat with him, she came very close. And I explained that, you know, one of the things that I do as a medium is I do hear people. And I said, are you open to it? They said, yes, yes. So what came about in that session, and I was so touched by it, I was quite depressed actually after the session, because I felt her desire so much to reach her boy and say, I'm sorry. I could feel it. And, you know, we're mediums, we just facilitate. So that was one thing. But I knew that they had had a big fight that day before she killed herself. And I didn't really go into it. It wasn't useful. He was devastated. She was upset. And there were many reasons why she killed herself, and it wasn't because of that one fight. So I think at some points you have to be careful and not say everything that comes to your mind. But I just left that alone, and I went through their relationship. So it's being a healer. A medium is being a healer. It's being maybe psychic in some way. It's really encompassing what is the best thing for both the person from the other side and the person receiving. And we just have to be careful. I hope that's useful.
It is, but like you say, there is this responsibility that we must hold. Leona, do you want to come back in on that?
Responsibility.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to an earlier point you were making about the difference between psychic and mediumship work.
Yeah.
You know, I think Ellyn was already saying, you know, that there is a distinctive difference in the feeling, you know, and I totally agree with what you were saying, Ellyn, that a lot of people out there are claiming it's coming from the person's mother in spirit or whatever, when it isn't. So it's very important to establish enough evidence to show that you have connected with somebody, you know, in spirit. But I did want to just add the point that once you've established that contact, that they will often bring true evidence that they've been closely around you lately,
Yes.
and they will bring up stuff that's currently going on in your life. But
Absolutely.
if you've gone for a reading with somebody and they just say, "Oh, do you understand your mother in the spirit world?" They say, "Yeah," and then they just talk all the rest of the reading just about stuff you're doing all the time. They've brought no evidence whatsoever about the type of lady their mother was, you know, no details about her life here or the relationship or anything. You can bet that that's a psychic reading then, because there's no evidence there to show that they're actually connected with the spirit world at all. Now, for me, it really is a distinctive difference in the feeling. For me, I feel like I'm down here when I'm connected to somebody psychically. It'll feel like I've bumped down there and I'm connected with the person's energy in front of me and to the sides. Whereas when I'm connected mediumistically, it feels like, for me, and it's different for everybody, but it will feel like it's coming from up here, you know, to the side of me and behind, coming up towards me, you know. So it's a distinctive feeling, and people can struggle with that if they're new in their development. But it's actually, you know, a good exercise to even try and practice with other people, you know, whether it's other mediums or if there's somebody willing to be a guinea pig, you know, and say, okay, I'm going to try and zone in now on your energy and what's going on in your life, you know, and then try and go back and forth, you know. That can help strengthen it for them, the difference in knowing which they're getting it from, which, whether it's psychically or mediumistically.
The problem is, there used to be a network of circles in the UK where people could do a lot of homeschooling, but we don't have that today. Do you believe that the online world is an opportunity for people to connect and develop their mediumship?
Can I stay with that?
Yeah.
because for me, it had all been online to begin with. You know what I mean? And I teach and everything, you know, and this was way before COVID or anything, you know. This was, as you said earlier, BC, before COVID, Paul.
BC.
So like, I was on Zoom way before anybody else was using it, you know. And yes, there's a different feeling to being in a room right there with somebody, you know, giving them a reading, or whether you're on video, you know, or on the telephone. But I mean, it doesn't make it any less powerful. You'll still get the same connection, you know, whether you're communicating. The only difference is where you are in connection with your sitter, the person who's getting the reading, because it doesn't matter where you are when you're connecting with the spirit world. They're right there, you know, and it's just as powerful, whatever form you do it in.
Yeah, brilliantly answered. Does anybody else want to follow that? Do you think the online world is the future?
I just think that, Leona, you said it so beautifully. It's such an opportunity. You know, when COVID came, the Journey Within Church in New Jersey, where I belong to, she brought in the best teachers from AFC, and we had great Zoom teaching for 3 years, and it was such a gift. It was an honor and a gift. Now, it's different, you know, but not less potent. To be able to reach somebody on Zoom and to give a message and to have somebody come alive, that's beautiful. But to be in person, like in a demonstration at the churches that we do here in theaters, and to be in Norwich is exciting because the audience brings their energy and it's vibrant, and we come and there's an excitement and electricity in the air that you don't feel on Zoom. It's different, and we're just really looking forward to that, because that's the best feeling. It really
You
is.
might, Ellyn,
So
you might have
everybody
to
who's
work.
coming, bring your energy. Bring your energy
Absolutely.
and bring your loved ones.
But Ellyn, you might have to work on your language because they're very, you know, Norfolk people, not Norwich. Okay, Norwich. All right, this is Norwich.
Oh wait, tell me how you say it. Say it again for me.
Not Norwich. I'm probably not. I mean, I've got a London accent, so I'm not doing it any justice. But it's Norwich.
Okay, so you know,
all
in
right?
the states where I live, there's a city called Norwich. So I'm going to have to change it to the UK,
okay.
Norwich. Yeah.
It's probably named after
Got it.
Norwich in the first place. But yeah, no, it's wonderful. Well, we can't wait to have you ladies come over to the UK to get you all, because, you know, we've got 2 of you in America, we've got Leona in Germany. To get you in a lovely little place like Norwich at the Puppet Theatre is quite special. And to have your energies working and demonstrating, I'm really excited to watch. And frankly, I'm hoping no one turns up so I can have all the messages from me. I'll be this one sitting in the... I'm only joking. I'm joking. But it's going to be a great night. But before we go, guys, I want to ask you a question, and I'm going to give you a moment to think about this. What is it in mediumship that we're not talking about that we should be? Is there anything that bothers you? Anything you'd like to get off your chest? Leona is straight in. Go, Leona, over to you.
Yes, this is something I'm always banging on about, self-development. So for the mediums out there that are listening to this, who think they can fast track it without doing any work on themselves, trying to heal any traumas or any issues they have going on in themselves, I would say, hold on, you know, because self-development is essential. You can't actually separate it from your mediumship as far as I'm concerned, you know, and, you know, people, you know, who are very judgmental and that, and haven't learned how to just step back, they're going to bring that in. They're going to put a spin on the information they're getting from the spirit world that isn't coming from the spirit world at all. It's coming from themselves and their own judgments and maybe their own experiences. So I just think it's essential. That's what I want to say on that anyway. Kind
of where I was going with the online circles, because I think people could still come together and develop in online. It's a tool, it's an opportunity for people to self-develop at home with not having to worry about getting the bus and going the other side of the city to go around Joe's house to be there till 11 o'clock. Logistically, it's fantastic. But and I think it's really important, like yourself, that self-development is everything. Ladies, Samantha, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, it's a little different, but I really feel like mediums and the audience, sitters, forget about the miracleness of it. I mean, it's an amazing thing that's happening.
Yeah.
And I think as mediums, and I probably get caught up in this too, I get frustrated, like maybe I didn't do so well, or I get hard on myself, and I think I forget, like, oh my gosh, this is someone's loved one coming through. This was a miracle happen. Like, this is amazing. And I feel like sometimes our sitters are like, well, you know, he had a broken ankle, not a broken foot, you know, or, you know, stuff like that. Like, people get really picky, and it's like they miss the big picture. And I think people should just step back and be like, this is amazing, and something that, like, we have to cherish. I mean, it's just, I think that's what we forget in our training, and as in,
I think from a guy's point of view, though, okay, and I'm going to represent all those guys. I think my stats on my followers, I've got something like 82% of my followers are ladies, and a very small 19% or 18% are men. Men are very logical in their approach to life, and they kind of want it proved to them. So there is this, and it kind of feeds into a competitive nature that we have in our psychology, that we look, hey, we're having this experience, and we want to prove to you. And mediumship can be very subjective in terms of your experience with the spirit world. So it's so difficult, isn't it, to get that across to people that there's more to this life than just, you know, this life. There's so much more, and we're missing the point. But how do we break down those, even with evidential? Maybe, I think, Ellyn, actually, you touched on this with when you connect with the spirit, and yourself, Leona, when you talk about surrendering and allowing that energy of spirit to come through and touch our lives. I think that's where the magic is. It's so hard though, Samantha. I think it's a really difficult thing.
I think people need their own experience. I mean, you can tell people, you know, but if it has to happen to you, and you can't force anyone to believe.
Well, there was a lady
it'll happen.
There was a lady, I think from your neck of the woods, Samantha, actually, Dr. Lottie Valentin. She was a medical doctor and she had 2 near-death experiences. And then I was very lucky to interview her. And there she was, completely battling against her science background, but she was talking to the angels. You know, it's amazing. But, you know, I don't want people to have near-death experiences before they believe in the spirit world.
No.
But I do think it's lovely that people can become more self-aware. Ellyn,
yes. I just want to add one of the books. It was called "I Can't Die for the Life of Me." She was the medical doctor who had stage 4 cancer all the way through her body. Went to the spirit world, came back, and there was nothing on her X-ray. So I forget her name. It's a long Indian name, but it's a fabulous book. I couldn't die for the life of me. That's one thing. But you asked, what are we missing in mediumship? First of all, it's sacred. It's always sacred every time. And mediumship is an experience of meeting spirit, being spiritual. I love what Leona said, personal development. I love what Sam just said. It's being open that this is a spiritual experience. And if you take God, whatever you want to call it, or spirit out of it, all you have is, I have a man here, and it's a mechanic. But that's not where it's at. So I wanted to add the sacredness of it. But the other thing I wanted to add is, we know as spiritualists, life is eternal. Nobody dies, and love never dies. Well, that's a pretty extraordinary thought. So if life is eternal and love never dies, it really puts some responsibility on us to have the best life we can right here. Say your apologies while you're here. Kiss your children. Say what you need to do. Live in integrity, because it's a lot more difficult on the other side, communicating all of that. But what we do this lifetime does really impact where we are on the other side. Life is eternal. Love doesn't die. And how can we be the best humans we can be right now? And I think that's the gift mediumship gives the world. Loving awareness. And I just want to say that.
that turned into a beautiful piece of philosophy, Ellyn. Thank you. And I think that's probably the perfect place to stop this interview. Can I just say, Samantha Robinson, Ellyn Shander, Leona McNama, thank you so much for being on Spiritual Talk. I'm super excited to see you on June the 22nd in Norwich at the Puppet Theatre. It's going to be awesome. Thank you, ladies. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Paul.
Paul. Thank you, everybody.